self-interest and egoism, etc., that is what works best for you and what makes you happy, but you wouldn't want everybody doing that.
No, I said Satanism. I do think that rational self-interest and egoism would work better for everybody if everyone cared a little bit more about themselves. I do. That's
I'm glad
that's
that
not
you
necessarily
think
the same
that.
thing as Satanism. Those are two. While they have a lot of overlap, there are differences. I do think that rational self-interest and egoism would be a much better benefit for society than any of it.
Right. So then, what would be the problem with me and a bunch of Christians getting together and saying that we want to take power because it's what's in our self-interests? We have a majority. We're going to take power, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, I did say rational self-interest and taking power. That just strikes me as not very rational. And then on top of that, I mean,
What? How is taking power not rational? That just doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. You know, you want to see society shaped a certain way. Seems like the rational thing to do is to take the power.
Why is it not rational?
Because you're taking power from who and to do what? Like, what would be your end goal in this hypothetical?
We're going to use the institutions of the government. We're going to use this democracy. We're going to take the power, and then we're going to influence culture to as much as we possibly can in a Christian direction. What would be the problem with
that? It's already happening. That's been happening for thousands of years. So I'm not sure how you're going to make it worse. What would be the problem with that?
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with it up until the point when you start forcing your religion on someone else. The moment you start forcing others to do things, that's where I have.
Well, why would that be bad? Huh? Huh? Huh?
Problem with it, because now your self-interest has become a community interest.
Right. Well, what things though? But that's my self-interest though. So that's what I want to do. So like, what's actually the problem?
That's yours, but that's not mine. My freedom doesn't end where yours, starts, so to speak. You don't get to overlap on, impede on mine.
But it's in my self-interest to make you guys live in a way that aligns with Christian ethics. So like, what's the problem with that? That's my self-interest.
I would think that if a person really thought that, I'd think they were delusional. That's solipsism. That makes no sense. There's nothing rational about that. Well, maybe solipsism. It's not quite the right word, but it's still what you're doing is you're forcing your will onto others. That's not rational.
Yeah, but you're saying that egoism and self-interest is the best thing to do for yourself, right? So
forcing your will on others is always wrong. Interesting. So if you see somebody committing a crime, they don't necessarily see it as a crime, but you do. Should you stop them from doing that? Because that would be forcing your will on them. They don't see anything wrong with it, but you do. Like dealing drugs. Like some people think, hey, that's perfectly fine. That's how I make my money. But other people don't agree with it, and they throw them in prison. Like that's forcing their will onto them. Is that okay? Huh?
Self-interest is to have a society that is abiding by Christian ethics, right?
So I think that person is mentally unstable.
Should be, yeah, but you have to give a justification. You can't just sort of say pejoratives. So, I mean, if we wanted to take power and say, you know what, we're going to influence the institutions of the government to try and have a Christian society, what would actually be the problem with that? Instead of just saying it's delusional, like, what's the actual problem with that?
The problem is not everyone's a Christian. I don't think you should be forcing anything on the people who don't accept that title.
Okay, I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to make you like sort of.
And that's a bit of a mischaracterization of like what Christian nationalism is saying. Like we're not trying to force the religion on people, but we're going to guide our ethics based on Christianity. So we're not going to say, "Oh, you're in the society now. You have to go to church every Sunday. You got to be there on time. If not, you're going to jail. You got to get baptized or else you're going to jail." It's not what we're saying. It's not what we're saying. We're just going to influence the laws and the ethics in the nation to reflect that of Christian ethics. Nobody's forcing religion on people. That's not what forcing religion on people means. You don't have to become a Christian if we create this Christian society. You're just not going to be able to do your coomerism and all your degenerate nonsense. And you can't tell me what's wrong with that. It's just a whole lot of this. One second. One second. I just feel like it. I just feel like it. I don't like it when you do that. Man. Stupid. I'll always love that clip. And it is stupid. And I don't like it. All these degenerates. Real.
But I want a Christian society though that has Christian values and Christian ethics. What's the problem with that?
The problem is if you're forcing that on other people. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you with my own religion. I don't find that to be rational at all. I would never do that to you. I would want the freedom to have my own religion, and you can have yours.
Right, but you can
that's
still
more rational.
So you can still practice your religion, whatever. But we want to implement a society that follows by Christian ethics, and we want to put mass propaganda into the society about the nuclear family and about loving your neighbor and about nationalism, patriotism, and all of these sort of things. Is there actually a problem with that, or because according to your worldview, it's pretty much just about your preferences, right? So you're saying that everybody can just do what they want. It's just all about our preferences, and you can have your preference, I'll have my preference. But like, this is my preference. So what's wrong with my preference?
Preference is to force other people?
No, I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. What
you
am I
just said
forcing
you're
them
going
to
to take power and you're going to use that. Why would that be your preference over letting, a live and let live, so to speak?
I mean, what I'm talking about is using the institutions of government to create a society where we promote Christian ethics.
Right. Why would you want to do that?
Well,
Why
because I think
wouldn't
it's
you want
better
to
for
let
society.
Yeah, that's still an opinion.
Oh,
And
whose
I
opinion
would-
did you expect me to give? Somebody
Unlike
else's?
all the
No,
opinions
of course
that you
not.
stated.
But the moment is the moment where it becomes a problem is when you start putting it into government.
Yeah, but why is that a problem?
That's a strange question. I don't even know how to respond to that. It should be obvious in the statement itself.
Well, I think that you
It should be obvious. It should be obvious. Great argument, bud.
should probably give a justification for that, because if I wanted to promote a society where we had a healthy nuclear family, where people were sort of more communitarian, they went to church, there was a higher standard of moral decency, people weren't engaging in all sort of sexual degeneracy, I'm actually just curious as to why that's wrong.
Well, I don't see anywhere where Christianity actually does that. I know that they claim it, but I mean, and I'm not trying to point out the obvious elephant in the room of Catholic priests and all that. I think that's a low blow. But realistically, there's nothing about Christianity that's making that happen now. We're not seeing that in any Christian society now. Nothing that you just described is happening anywhere.
Well, that's interesting you should say that.
A big problem with that is that a lot of modern Christians today also adopt this libertarian-esque view of the whole live and let live, and it's kind of problematic. Y'all got to stop it. Knock it off. Sick of it.